Okay guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Alright guys, I'm back and I see you are as well. It is Sunday, July 12th, and it is 11:32 p.m. I know it's late, but I wanted to bring a second video because there is so much news happening and I want to stay on top of it. Alright, let's get into the news. All right, so I've done one video tonight and it is still processing and has been for quite a while now. So we will wait for that. And in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and record a second video. And I thanked these people in the last video, but hey, I want to thank them again. The following donated via coffee: Anne, Eileen, Melanie Winans, I hope I pronounced that right, and Marjorie Joanne Talasco. Thank you guys so much. You make this possible, you and the other Patreon subscribers, and those of you that just hang out and do comments and encourage and pray. You guys are very important as well. You're always welcome here, whether you contribute or not. So just rest assured, I appreciate all of you. All right, and the other thing I wanted to mention, that if you are subscribed and you wish to stay subscribed, please make sure every now and then just go and make sure that you haven't been unsubscribed, because that's happening a lot. So anyway, let's just jump right into the news here. I'm not sure how long this video is going to go for, but I would like to at least get some of these news items out there. Okay, now, those of you that live in Pennsylvania will probably already know this, but Ohio County starts hotline to report people not wearing masks. Now, this is from yesterday, and it just says Cleveland, Ohio. Oh, this is Ohio. Okay, I thought you said, I thought for some reason that this was in, I guess because it says Penn Live. Cleveland, Ohio. Enforcement of Governor Mike DeWine's mask order will largely rely on complaints filed by the public rather than proactive policing, County Executive Armin Budish announced Friday. Individuals who see others failing to abide by the mask requirement should call in complaints to the county's new hotline at 1-800-EAT-CRAP. Yes, that's the number. Or file complaints online at this place right here, which I am hoping that none of you will be reporting anyone that is not wearing a mask, because it is ridiculous and it's been proven that it is not effective at all. Why they are making us wear, as my good friend Triple H, Heather H. in Houston says, face diapers. They're making us wear face diapers. Well, I think there's a reason why, and we're not going to get into that tonight, but it's just strange. And up here, we have not had a case in this whole area. They call this area Quinte West. We have not had a case since May, and yet they have now instituted this, mandatory mask requirement. So if you go in any building at all, except your own personal home, you have to wear a mask. I'm not happy about it. I know I will be doing much more shopping online because I don't like being forced to wear a mask to protect against something that has a less than 1% fatality rate. It's ridiculous. All right. So I'm not going to belabor that. I just wanted to let you know. And let's go back here and let's look at this. Great news. This is by Representative Jeff Duncan. Great news. Donald Trump has denied Minnesota's disaster request to repair $500 million in damage from the riots. Governors and mayors who ordered police to stand down and watch their cities burn shouldn't get a penny of taxpayer aid. And I agree wholeheartedly. These people were foolish in the way that they handled this. They told the police to stand down and let the buildings burn. Well, then they, I think that the federal government needs to stand down and let them burn through their own cash. That's just how I feel. And feds deny Walt's request for aid to rebuild after riots. More than 1,500 buildings suffered damage in the unrest after George Floyd's death. Now, we could go to the article, but I'm not going to, because I think that that is all we need to know at this point, that they have requested it and have been denied. And that makes me happy, because these mayors that allowed this to happen to their cities, these mayors and governors, they need to figure it out. Figure it out. All right. Now, I do feel sorry for the good people of these places that have been decimated. I do feel sorry for them, because it's not their fault. I mean, you know, look at who we have for a prime minister. So, and it's not my fault. I didn't vote for him and never would. And anyway, I can't vote anyway in Canada, because to be able to vote, I'd have to say that I'm going to be living here, because actually I'm a U.S. resident. So there you go. Everything you never wanted to know. And let's look at this. It's old. It's from 2017, but I want to show it to you because, well, I think it's worth it. Look at this. Now, tell me, all these polls that have Joe Biden leading, you tell me how that could possibly be accurate. Let's watch. And that's basically, I mean, it's just, look at the crowds. Look at, it's not just these people, all of these people. There's people way back here as well. That's a lot of people. And what did Joe Biden have for his recent, well, I don't think it was a rally, but I don't know what it was, but I think 4 people showed up. Yeah. So, but he's leading in all the polls, don't you know? Yeah. And, you know, things like this really need to start posting them where Democrats can see them, because, you know, to listen to Democrats, everybody hates Trump. Oh, everybody hates him. Well, not all these people. Not any of the people that I saw filling stadiums all over the United States for him over the last several years. Well, 3.5, 4, actually before that, because he was campaigning. So yeah, he can fill up the largest stadiums in America, and Joe Biden draws 4. Right. But he's leading. Right. Okay, now let's go back, because there's more. Always more. And this is by JFK Jr., well, somebody that calls himself JFK Jr. at John F. Kennedy Jr. Now, very strange. It says, on July 22nd, all questions will be answered. Identities revealed. A complete timeline. No more secrets. No more contradictions. The end of one journey will be the beginning of another. This is how the Great Awakening begins. It is what we have all worked for. And then he adds this at the end: I am not alive. And I know some of you brought this to my attention and probably wondered why I didn't bring it, because there was Robert Kennedy. He was on some talk show or whatever. I'm not sure. He was being interviewed anyway, and they asked him in the comments if JFK Jr. was alive to touch his nose. And immediately he smiled and he went like this. He touched his nose. So I don't know what to believe, because we are faced with all these contradictions all the time. He's alive. Look at all this evidence. No, he's dead. Look at this evidence. You know, and you don't know what to believe. And then there's people on both sides. If you don't believe it, people are saying, what's the matter with you? Look at all this evidence. And if you do believe it, there's people on the other side going, what are you, nuts? Sorry, I just hit my microphone. You know, so it's hard to know what to believe, but I'm telling you right now, that is one weird comment. So July 22nd, let me see here. July 22nd is, well, don't have long to wait. That's just next week. It's next Wednesday. Now, I don't know. I'm going to have to look into that. What is happening next Wednesday? Is there anything on the schedule, or has anybody heard anything about next Wednesday? I know it's my parents, not my parent, but my father who passed away. It is their anniversary. And of course, my mother is remarried now to my stepfather, who is a wonderful, wonderful man. And you know what? While I'm thinking of it, please pray for him, because he has surgery tomorrow morning, and really hoping that this is going to help, because he's been in misery. So he's got surgery in the morning. And if you could just offer a prayer for him, if you are a believer, I would really appreciate it. Anyway, I know we've got some real prayer warriors on this channel. So let's go on. And this by Ryan Fournier. In case you didn't know, President Trump's Mar-a-Lago was the first country club in Palm Beach County to allow African Americans and Jewish people. Yet he's a racist? Now, that's not the first time I've heard that, but it bears repeating, because I had forgotten about that, but it's true. He was the first one to allow African Americans and Jewish people. And yet, somehow, he's the racist. Right. Okay. Well, let's go on here, and let's look at this. And what's this? Okay. So this is by Juanita Broderick. And, you know, she's sometimes got a mouth like a sailor, but I like her. And she was certainly denied justice, because she was sexually abused by, or maybe raped. I can't remember. I think she was raped by Bill Clinton. Anyway, she said, "Nancy, you petrified piece of shite, for heaven's sakes, get some denture adhesive." I cannot tell you how much it bothers me watching her play with her dentures. It is disgusting. And I don't know why someone on her staff doesn't tell her, "Nancy, you're making people throw up." Seriously. Okay, well, let's listen to this. I know, I always seem to be playing Nancy Pelosi late at night and giving everybody nightmares, but, well, hello, Xander. You won't be wanting to stay once you see what we're about to play. You won't be wanting to stay, I'm telling you. Okay, let's listen.
With a decision on the president's taxes, he has gone with every reaction you could think, from saying it's a witch hunt to saying he won. What do you say? You clearly are in the middle of this, and it clearly was a precedent-setting decision by the Supreme Court. What does these two decisions mean?
As I go into that, I will say the president also said that the action by the Supreme Court was based on a hoax. He says the coronavirus is a hoax. He says the charge that Russia might be up to some bad stuff regarding our troops in Afghanistan is a hoax. He's really the hoax in all of this. Now, as far as the Supreme Court is concerned, it was a good day for the rule of the law in our country. It was a good day for the Constitution. It may put off receiving some of its financial records, but the fact of what was larger at stake was our system of checks and balances. And the court clearly said the president does not have immunity, that no one, not even the president, is above the law.
Yeah, but she thinks she is. And here's the thing. Isn't it $122 million that she's worth? Like, back off the vodka and get some new dentures that actually fit. Seriously. Because she slurs all her words, and she's constantly playing with those dang dentures. It is so disgusting. I can't imagine that somebody that's in the public eye, somebody wouldn't tell them. I mean, it's as bad as if she was up there picking her nose. It really is. To me, I think it's gross. I mean, seriously. I know you're all like, no, really, Michelle, tell us how you really feel. Okay, let's go on from that because I get a little nauseous. Seriously, I'm not, I know you probably think I'm putting that on. I'm not. It literally makes me nauseous. I don't know what it is about it, but it does. All right. Oh, yes, yes. If you haven't seen this, you have to. I love it. And says, dude's savage. This was 0 F's given. And I would tend to agree here. Let me make it bigger for you tiny phone people because you deserve to see this. All right.
Oh my God, I'm busted. Drinking Russian vodka. Mueller, arrest me. Libtards.
Libtards. Oh, I love it. Okay, now you got to admit, that's funny. So let's go back now. And let's come down here. And it says, this photo is from this week. They're in private and don't know they're being photographed. Something's missing. What is it? And ask yourself why. Well, let's make this bigger for you tiny phone people because, you know what? I happen to have, you know, some affection for you tiny phone people. I really do. And, yeah, what's missing? And this is Pencil Neck, and that is, you know, Pelosi. And I don't know who this is. These two are. Not sure. But anyway, look at them all standing around there just having a, you know, a gab. And what are they missing? Masks. They're not wearing masks. And yet, whenever you see them in public, oh, there's that mask, or at least they have them around their neck. Yeah. Hypocrites. It's all for show. It's all for show. And if it wasn't, they'd be wearing masks. I'm not a mask person. I don't agree with them, and I hate being mandated to wear one. However, if I was around Adam Schiff, I probably would wear one because, well, I think you probably know why. All right, let's go on. And let's look at this, which is absolutely disgusting. And why isn't this getting more attention? Young white mother killed by Black Lives Matter mob for allegedly saying all lives matter. National media fully ignores. Well, it doesn't fit their narrative, does it? Of course, they'll ignore any news item that doesn't fit their narrative. I hope you can hear me. My microphone's kind of off here. Well, not off, but off center. Okay, so this is from yesterday, and it is disgusting. Here's this young white mother, and her son does not look that old. I mean, definitely still needs his mother. She's 24 years old. A 24-year-old mother was killed by a Black Lives Matter mob in Indianapolis last week, allegedly for saying all lives matter. Unlike Charlottesville or any violence from the right, this killing was reported so quietly that barely anyone even noticed. Well, that's what their intention was, right? And says Jessica Dottie Whitaker was shot and killed following an altercation with Black Lives Matter thugs who are upset that she and her fiance said all lives matter last Sunday. According to the victim's family, the shooting started with an argument over Black Lives Matter and language. Eventually, the two sides separated and walked away from each other until witnesses claim the killer opened fire from a nearby bridge and ran away. Fox 59 reports. It was squashed and they went up the hill and left, and we thought, it was squashed and they went up the hill and left, we thought, but they were sitting on St. Clair waiting for us to come under the bridge, and that's when she got shot. The victim's fiance, Jose Ramirez, I hate when it does that. Jose Ramirez told the station. Her grandfather posted on Facebook that multiple black assailants shot her in the head. Why isn't anybody outraged about this? He asked in the post. Is it that Black Lives Matter was involved, or that it was it was white young adults that were the victims? Whitaker leaves behind a 3-year-old son, 3 years old. I mean, I feel bad for whoever had to explain to that child that his mom wasn't coming home. She shouldn't have lost her life. She's got a 3-year-old son she loved dearly, said Ramirez. Her father, Robert Dottie, told the Gateway Pundit that the Black Lives Matter supporters had walked by her and her fiancé and said, "Black Lives Matter," to which Jessica responded that all lives matter. The Black Lives Matter activists had allegedly pulled out weapons during the argument, which prompted Ramirez to do the same. This led to them backing off, but not for long. An argument started and guns came out, but they worked things out. Unfortunately, they didn't drop it and waited for them to walk back through, and she was shot in the head, Dottie told the Gateway Pundit. Dottie confirmed that neither CNN nor Fox News has reached out for information about the case, despite the murderer being on the loose. Who's he going to kill next? I mean, if he just so cavalierly shoots a young woman in the head, now he wouldn't have known that she had a son, but still, you don't think he'd do it again? When asked how the family is holding up, Dottie said, "One day at a time is all we can do." Her sister Jennifer told the Gateway Pundit that they were walking the canal with friends after an awesome 4th of July celebration. It's heart-wrenching to watch my mother explain to my 3-year-old nephew that mommy is an angel in heaven, Jennifer told the Gateway Pundit, adding, and him ask when we can go get her and bring her back. And that's the thing with children that young. They don't understand that death is final. They just don't understand. And it's tragic to have to explain that to a 3-year-old. Jennifer told the Gateway Pundit that her sister was a certified nursing assistant doing home health care and getting ready to go back to school to become a registered nurse. Her son was her world. She had the kindest heart and was in no way racist towards anyone, Jennifer told the Gateway Pundit. Ramirez said the hardest part has been explaining to her son Grayson that his mother will not be coming back. It's hard to tell him his mom is in heaven, and if you want to talk to her, you have to look up and say, "I love you, Mom," said Ramirez. A white woman with her fiancé argued with Black Lives Matter supporters. This was a tweet. The argument ended. Black Lives supporters supposedly left, and as the couple continued on their way, oh my gosh, what is going on here? The argument ended. They supposedly went on their way. They got ambushed by them, and the woman was killed. Sickening. And look at her. Beautiful. 24 years old with a son. Her whole life ahead of her. She's working as a nursing assistant, and she was going back to school to be a registered nurse. And all the people that she could have helped, all the good things she could have done with her life, they're over. For what? We're going through a lot. The 3-year-old boy doesn't even understand, really, said Ramirez. I just want justice for Jessica and her son and her family. Police are still looking for suspects and have released a video from the area of the murder. Not going to play that for time's sake. And it says anyone with information about the shooting is asked to call IMPD Homicide Office at 317-327-3475 or Crime Stoppers of Central Indiana. A GoFundMe has been launched to help pay for her funeral and take care of her young son. It's awful. And why isn't that splashed all over the news? Everywhere. It should be. I can't imagine. And yet, if she had been black and been killed by a white person, you would see non-stop coverage. Non-stop. You know it. All right, let's come back here, and I think I'm going to wait on that one, but here's something interesting. I'll tell you why it's interesting, and I'm not trying to be weird or out there or woo-woo, but I had a dream last night, and when I saw the pictures of the ship, which is actually a naval, it's a naval ship, I saw that ship on fire in a dream last night. It was so bizarre, and I didn't even remember the dream until I read about that and saw a picture, and I went, oh my gosh, that was, and in my dream, I was walking by and I just happened to glance over and this ship was on fire. And I remember thinking, that's not good. This is really not good. And I'm not sure why, but this fear enveloped me when I saw that. And it could be nothing. I mean, that's happened to me before where I've dreamt about something and then it happened. But it's odd to me, very odd. And I don't know, but in my dream, it was like it was almost like an omen of something really bad. But I don't know enough about this yet to know whether that's just a dream and means nothing or what. Sailors injured in blaze aboard ship at San Diego Naval Base. And it says San Diego, 11 people suffered minor injuries after an explosion and fire Sunday on board a ship at Naval Base San Diego, officials said. The blaze was reported shortly before 9 a.m. on USS Bonhomme Richard, said Krishna Jackson, the base's public information officer. 11 people were treated for non-life-threatening injuries, Jackson said. She didn't have additional details. The cause of the fire was under investigation. Jackson didn't know where on the 840-foot, 255-meter amphibious assault vessel the blast and the fire occurred. The flames sent up a huge plume of dark smoke visible around San Diego. San Diego is the Bonhomme Richard's home port, and it was undergoing routine maintenance. Yeah, routine maintenance. At the time of the fire, Jackson estimated about 200 sailors and officers were on board, far fewer than if the ship was on active duty. The ship had the capacity to deploy and land helicopters, smaller boats, and amphibious vehicles. And let me see here. It says, crazy, smoke billowing into the sky from a military ship fire on the USS Bonhomme Richard. And that's about all. I don't know. I haven't caught up with this story after, because this was a lot earlier in the evening that I looked at this. So I'm going to have to stay on top of that and just see, because it's a little strange. I'm just saying, it's a little strange. All right. Now, let's go. Oh, yes. Here's something despicable. Under cover of COVID, medical team euthanizes disabled man against wife's wishes. Yeah, this is from today. Michael Hickson was euthanized against the will of his wife. Well, my brother was euthanized against the will of his family. And they said he was brain dead, but he was not brain dead, because when they were scrubbing his heads that they put the electrodes on, he was crying in pain. Now, he was still in a coma, but he was crying. And when his best friend walked into the room, he also cried. I just don't believe, but we had no choice. No choice at all. So don't think that it doesn't happen, because it does. Probably a lot more than you're aware of. That's not what doctors are saying now. Most of the media is following suit. The 46-year-old African-American man was suffering from double pneumonia, sepsis, and a urinary tract infection. He was also paralyzed, having become brain damaged and quadriplegic after going into cardiac arrest in 2017 and suffering complications. The doctors said something different when he was alive, however. Oh, I bet they did. They got to cover their tracks. I bet you they ripped out all his organs too. I'm sorry that I'm being so blunt. It's, but that happens a lot. The organs are worth a lot of money. And a lot of times, especially if someone's cremated, how would you ever know? if they've removed the organs. You wouldn't. First, they refused to intubate him. According to Washington Post report, July 5th, it wasn't an issue of hospital capacity at St. David's South Austin Medical Center in Texas, or the fact Hickson was quadriplegic or black. It was just a very sad and complex situation, as one doctor described it. According to the Post, a situation that involved a painful disagreement between Hickson's wife, Melissa Hickson, and Hickson's sister, a physician and fellow at George Washington Hospital in Washington, D.C. Well, that's even worse if it was his sister, because really the sister should have no say. Even if she is a doctor, it should be up to the wife. It wasn't the first time Melissa Hickson had clashed with medical authorities over her husband's care, according to the Post, and it wasn't the first time Hickson's sister had sided with the authorities. Disagreement in February, Hickson's sister applied in court to take over as her brother's guardian. She sounds like a winner. While that was still awaiting a court hearing, according to the Washington Post, a court appointed a temporary guardian for Hickson in February, taking his wife's place. So the family situation is sad. Michael and Melissa Hickson also have 5 children, now largely grown, and the legal issues are complex, but no amount of sadness or complexity will eliminate what one of Hickson's doctors said to Melissa Hickson about intubation. Melissa Hickson had recorded the June 6 exchange and turned over the audio to KVUE TV in Austin. According to KVUE, Hickson had been brought to the hospital in early June from a nursing home and diagnosed with COVID-19. Yeah. At the beginning of the conversation, the doctor says Michael doesn't qualify for promising antiviral drug remdesivir because he's not intubated, and his doctors did not want to perform that procedure. They decided not to go forward with aggressive treatment like intubation and remdesivir because, as of right now, his quality of life, he doesn't have much of one. What do you mean, Hickson said? Because he's paralyzed with a brain injury, he doesn't have quality of life? Correct, the doctor responded. Hickson wasn't the man he was before his 2017 cardiac arrest. The Morehouse graduate was blind, brain damaged, and had no concept of time. He needed to be tube fed. However, when he had gaps in memory, he could still remember things like his social security number, according to the Washington Post account. Just in case you didn't get the point here we are again. Will it affect his quality? Will it improve his quality of life? The doctor, who was not identified, says on Melissa Hickson's recording, and the answer is no. Why wouldn't it? Melissa Hickson said. Being able to live isn't improving quality of life. There's no improvement with being intubated with a bunch of lines and tubes in your body and being on a ventilator for more than 2 weeks, the doctor responded. Melissa Hickson agreed that intubation was not desirable, but then appeared to indicate it was preferable to simply letting her husband die. And I totally agree with you on the intubation part of it. I don't want him intubated, she said, but I also don't think you should just sit him somewhere to be comfortable until he finally drifts away. That, to me, is futile too. That's saying you're not even trying to save someone's life, you're just watching them go. Another instance where it's perfectly clear what the doctor means. At one point, he talks about patients who've managed to pull through similar situations by fighting off COVID-19 on their own with oxygen, although it's unclear what measures were taken. Hickson asks how long they were there, and the doctor says 1.5 to 2 weeks, sometimes even longer. Hickson then mentions her husband has only been there since Tuesday. If the New York Post timeline is correct, that means 3 days. However, his quality of life is different from theirs, the doctor says. They were walking and talking people. Again, this is the compassionate thing to do, the same way euthanasia is. So the fact that you're killing someone doesn't make sense in your mind, Melissa Hickson asks. The doctor denies it. So I'm not going to read all this. The doctor denies it's killing, but they are actively giving up on the patient. At this point, I don't think it would be humane or compassionate to put a breathing tube in this man, the doctor says. And then there's the dismissiveness, comments which, if delivered in any other context to a black woman trying to get care for her black husband, would likely be attacked by the mainstream media as both telling and patronizing. When Hicks talks about an older relative who has survived coronavirus, well, I'm going to go with the data. I'm not going to go with stories, because stories don't help me, okay? The doctor replies curtly. He also makes it clear that Melissa Hickson's input isn't particularly desirable in what happens to her husband, partially because, due to the friction between Melissa Hickson and her sister-in-law, the state, as previously mentioned, had to step in to make decisions about what would happen with Michael Hickson, although it certainly seemed like they were more than willing to defer to doctors who weren't particularly interested in saving his life. He would die 6 days later on June 11th in hospice care. Melissa Hickson says she asked to be able to speak with him via FaceTime in hospice, but the staff there were too busy to set it up. He died without ever talking to his wife again. The hospital declined to be interviewed. Of course they did. Well, you know what? This just reminds me of what we went through with my brother. He didn't have COVID, and it was a medical mistake that put him there, but they were sure quick to in fact, I was on my way. I was living in Baton Rouge at the time, and I was on my way, and I had just landed in Syracuse. The wheels were down on the plane, and we were taxiing, so I was essentially home, few hours from home, and they wouldn't wait. They had to overdose him with morphine. Yeah, because they took him off the life support, and he was still breathing heartily. But yeah, that didn't last long. So I know, and I don't want to bring all that up, but I'm just saying this happens. It didn't matter what the family said in the case of my brother, and I know several other people that are close to me that this has happened to. So something similar where they had cancer and they were denied dialysis, and it killed them. And they might have lived another 2, 3, 4 years with the cancer. And who are they to say, no, your life's not, no, it's not important. Those 2, 3, 4 years aren't important. But that's the decisions that they're making in the medical world. And I don't happen to think it's just Canada. I think it's happening in the US. And so I don't know that for a fact, but yeah, it's not what it used to be. It's really not what it used to be. And I think that you do not get in a lot of places. Now, some places, I've been to wonderful hospitals, but there are some places that just, they look at an elderly person and they say, they've had a good life. Well, look at Bill de Blasio. Yeah, he really cared about the elderly in New York, didn't he? And Cuomo and de Blasio. All right, that's enough of that. I've depressed myself. Okay, let's look at this. Okay, report. Hillary Clinton hired Ghislaine Maxwell's nephew to work in her State Department on U.S.-Libya policy. You don't say. Ghislaine's nephew worked in Hillary's State Department from 2009 to 2012. This is from today. It's hot and fresh from Wayne Dupree. Here's a tidbit you likely didn't know about. What I'm about to share with you is just more of the Illuminati cabal taking care of each other, stroking one another's backs, giving cover, keeping the prestige and cash flowing, maybe even returning a favor or two, or paying off a bribe. Who knows? The one thing we do know is that Hillary Clinton placed Ghislaine Maxwell's nephew in charge of the disastrous U.S.-Libya policy and then some. Well, isn't that interesting? Allow me to introduce you to Mr. Alexander, DeGrassi, the son of Ghislaine's sister, Isabel Maxwell. Isabel was a technology pioneer. She also dabbled in film and the arts. Maxwell worked with DeGrassi, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Films, Inc., on collaborative projects with Dale Gerassi, whom she married in 1984, And here's an interesting extra tidbit. Dale Jurassic Park is the Jurassic Park. See what happens to me when I get tired? That's funny. I don't care who you are. It's funny. Dale Jurassic's father is the scientist who invented the birth control pill. Interesting. But yeah, I think all these links and everything are interesting, and they're all starting to come out. You know, it says your sins will be shouted from the rooftops. So let's look at this. Oh yes, this is an interesting. Academics try to get own study canned after it finds inconvenient truth about race and police shootings. Now, we've discussed this before, that there are actually far more, police are responsible for shooting far more white people than they are black people. So being the authors of a widely cited academic study ordinarily would be a good thing, but not for Joseph Cesario and David Johnson, apparently. They have asked for that widely cited paper to be retracted. Not because of any errors in it, mind you, but because of who's citing it. You probably would be less surprised if I told you the study was called Officer Characteristics and Racial Disparities in Fatal Officer-Involved Shootings. Cesario and Johnson from Michigan State University and the University of Maryland, respectively, were among the authors of a study that looked at whether there were any distinct patterns of racial bias in fatal police shootings. Their conclusion, as reported by Retraction Watch, was that originally there was no evidence of anti-black or anti-Hispanic disparities across shootings, and white officers are not more likely to shoot minority civilians than non-white officers. Well, whoops, that's impolitic. It's impolitic. The study was published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in 2019, and being a political football, once conservatives started using it to hit back on anti-police rhetoric, the authors already had issued a correction in April dealing with that sentence. Based on their calculations, they said, this sentence should read, as the proportion of white officers in fatal officer-involved shootings increased, a person fatally shot was not more likely to be of a racial minority. This is consistent with our framing of the results in the abstract and main text. Then came a new wave of attention when the study was cited in a controversial June Wall Street Journal op-ed written by Heather McDonald of the right-leaning Manhattan Institute titled The Myth of Systemic Police Racism. McDonald argued that crime and suspect behavior, not race, determined most police actions. The paragraph that cited the study read thusly: the latest in a series of studies undercutting the claim of systemic police bias was published in August 2019 in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. The researchers found that the more frequently officers encountered violent suspects from any given racial group, the greater the chance that a member of that group will be fatally shot by a police officer. There is no significant evidence of anti-black disparity in the likelihood of being fatally shot by police, they concluded. Earlier this week, Cesario and Johnson requested a retraction on the article. The reason wasn't based on errors in their research, however. Instead, it was partially because they were unhappy with who was using it, and partially because they felt people were extrapolating their data to all police shootings, not just fatal ones, or to policing in general. Our article estimated the role of officer characteristics in predicating the race of civilians fatally shot by police. A critique pointed out we had erroneously made statements about racial differences in the probability of being shot, and we issued a correction to rectify the statement, the retraction read. Despite the correction, our work has continued to be cited as providing support for the idea that there are no racial biases in fatal shootings or police in general. To be clear, our work does not speak to these issues and should not be used to support such statements. But that's exactly what they found. We take full responsibility for not being careful enough. Yeah, can you imagine? I mean, you know, they come up with they do this study and they prove they disprove exactly what they were trying to prove, and now they retract it. Probably somebody made them, possibly, or maybe not. Says we take full responsibility for not being careful enough with the inferences made in our original report, as this directly led to the misunderstanding of our research. So anyway, I'm not going to read all the rest of that, but shouldn't be surprising to anyone, I don't think. All right, let's go on. I'm not going to go for too much longer here because, you know, it's after 12, and, well, you know what happens after 12. Yeah, I get a little bit strange. Really, really strange. I'm just saying it like it is. I mean, at least I'm self-aware. Okay, and let's look at this. Suddenly I'm getting tired. China buys up U.S. land just a stone's throw from Laughlin. How do you pronounce that? Laughlin? It's Laughlin, right? Air base, sparking espionage fears. Yeah, that is a big concern, and that is actually the truth. And my voice is going. A China-based company's proposal to build a wind farm. A wind farm. How does wind reproduce? Are there baby winds? Are there winds that, you know, that you use with other winds to procreate? It's a wind farm. How do you feed the wind? I don't know. Anyway, it's a wind farm. I hope it's not wind from the hinder parts, because that's the worst kind of wind. You know, there used to be a saying, wherever you be, let your wind go free. But don't. Whoever made that statement is just plain wrong. Wrong. All right. I warned you guys. See, it happens every night. Past this time, I get strange. All right. So a China-based company proposal to build a wind farm a few dozen miles away from Laughlin Air Force Base in Texas is raising red flags about national security. I don't know why I keep hiccuping and weird, strange things happening. About national security concerns and potential espionage. Yeah, like they bought, what was it? It was 132,000 acres or something like that. Hopefully they'll tell us. The Blue Hills Wind Development Project. Located not far from America's border with Mexico, is being proposed by GH American Energy, a subsidiary of a name I can't pronounce, energy company, which is owned by a former Chinese army officer, according to Foreign Policy. The federal government has so far not blocked the project. Why not, is my question, which is currently undergoing a review to ensure that wind turbines do not impact pilot training at the base. Yes, running into a wind turbine can ruin your whole day. The federal government has so far not blocked. Okay, however, voices are being raised in concern, and to tell you the truth, I'd be one of those. That I would not feel comfortable living next to Chinese neighbors. I mean, because I would be like, why don't they do this? Why are they doing this here? However, okay, why this location and why this project? Republican Representative Will Hurd of Texas, a former CIA officer whose district included, see, I'm telling you, I'm no good at this time of night, includes the project, told Foreign Policy. Why are we allowing a Chinese company to do that in the U.S.? A former U.S. general would not be able to do this kind of project in China. Well, that's a given. Retired Air Force Lieutenant General Stephen Quast said he has national security concerns about the project. It triggers alarms. The first time that we got evidence of Chinese money, he said, if the electricity stops or the water stops flowing, those bases stop operating. Local officials, meanwhile, have shared their concerns with the Trump administration. Our greatest concern is the long-term implications this will have on the Air Force's mission of pilot training, not with a single application, but rather a cumulative strategy that cannot be evaluated in the first filing. County Judge Louis G. Owens Jr. and Del Rio Mayor Bruno Lozano wrote in February to Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, "We believe that this project and all future projects of a similar nature will result in unacceptable risk to national security of the United States. Republican Senator Ted Cruz of Texas also has issues with the project." I bet you just about all Texans have issues with this project. I know Heather H. in Houston does because she told me. So, yeah. Senator Cruz is particularly concerned by the threat of a Chinese-owned company erecting wind farms. I'm sorry, I have a very literal and visual mind, so I'm picturing a wind farm. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to go on now. Erecting wind farms near Laughlin. China has demonstrated a willingness to invest billions of dollars in specific targeted economic initiatives through private companies to expand the global reach of their security and espionage capabilities, a Cruz spokesperson told Foreign Policy. Not only will these wind farms near Laughlin affect training routes, they could also risk our national security. This isn't even a funny story. I don't know what my problem is. Really, I don't know what my problem is. Yeah, okay. So, but in Texas, the rules are on the side of development, one expert said. So anyway, I think I'm going to have to stop reading this because I can't control myself. I'm sorry, but at least you know about this. It's a huge amount of land too. It's like 130,000 acres or something like that. It's a lot of land. And yes, it is right next to Laughlin Air Base. And they're wanting to build a wind farm. Okay. All right. You know, I think that we've had enough for tonight because I'm pretty sure you've had enough of me. So I'm going to stop for tonight, and tomorrow I'll pull myself together through the night and sleep, and I'll be ready and fresh for tomorrow. I'm going to try and do it earlier because by the time this gets uploaded, it's going to be in the middle of the night and nobody will know it. And maybe I'll get lucky and nobody will see it. Or maybe they'll stop listening until they get to this part. Like maybe they'll stop listening before they get to this part. And, you know, anyway, all right. So that's enough. Yeah. Wind farms. Okay. Well, it's kind of like those, and this is a real thing. Really it is, because I've bought it before. Snail mucus. Yes, I've bought snail mucus because it's wonderful for your skin. And apparently there's a certain type of snail, and they have snail farms. No kidding. They milk the snails. Now, I did see a video of how it was done because I was interested, because, you know, it's not like a cow. Because could you imagine how many workers you'd need to milk snails? But no, they have this machine actually, and they put something in there that is pleasurable to the snails, and they excrete all this mucus and then they draw it out. So anyway, why I'm talking about this, I have no idea. Please, somebody shut me up. All right, that's enough for tonight. I better go before I lose every bit of respect I've ever gained. I know, I've never gained any respect. Anyway, I'm going to go now before somebody thinks I've been drinking. I haven't. I haven't been drinking or taking drugs. No, I haven't really. I promise. All right, so that's it for tonight, although my cheeks are flushed. Maybe that's from the wind. Okay, they need more wind. That's why they need wind farms. Okay, I'm leaving now. Really, honestly, I am. So that is it for tonight. Stay safe, stay well, stay blessed, and please keep seeking truth. Check out the merchandise that is pinned to the first comment. Make sure you're still subscribed if you want to be subscribed, and check tomorrow because there'll be a video that will be much better than this one. I can guarantee that. Yes. Good night, guys.